It was 1971 when we initially embarked on our grueling adventure. There were 17 aboard, 17 distinct souls bound within the metal walls and the endlessness of nothingness that enveloped us. The vessel we sailed upon became our one lifeline, a frail shell venturing through the blackness of space. We trusted it to bear the cruelty of the universe. We trusted, above all, one another, establishing ties that would endure through the adversity that lay in wait. That was the first of our mistakes. It started with the sound. 3 taps. Rhythmic, gentle, deliberate. Then, silence. Commander Novak was the first to detect the noise. He steadfastly maintained that it was coming from outside the ship, from beyond the walls that contained us. We tried to reassure him, telling him that it was just a product of thermal expansion, or the movement of metal parts. But Novak was not convinced by our reasoning. He would sit for hours in the observatory, his forehead against the glass, as he counted slowly under his breath, lost in his world. 3 taps, then nothing. Hola was the first of us to crack under the strain. He started to whisper of a disquieting presence that seemed to be hiding in the darkness. He talked of twisted faces that seemed to be staring back at him through the observation glass, observing him with an intensity that made him nervous. Despite our efforts to reassure him and calm his mounting fear, one night, he disappeared from amongst us. We found him later at the airlock, where a gruesome sight met our eyes. His fingernails were dug deep into the metal frame, savagely ripped down to the quick, a stark indication of his frantic struggle. His mouth was agape, frozen in a silent scream that spoke of his horror. To our dismay, we saw that his helmet was gone, and more horrific, his eyes were missing. When we checked the security records to determine the cause of what had transpired, all we saw was a screen full of nothing but static, until, suddenly, Novak's face filled the screen, smiling strangely at us. After the experiences of Holub, the others started to notice it too. The constant tapping was everywhere. It could be heard from above us, beneath us, and even in the very walls that enclosed us. Sometimes, the sound seemed as if it came from deep within our own bodies. Mariq stopped eating altogether, not touching his meals. He would instead sit in the dark, repeating a motion of rocking back and forth, as though trying to find some source of comfort. Clara started talking to herself, holding long conversations with the empty air around her. The engineer, Varga, started carrying a wrench around him everywhere he went, constantly repeating to himself that the tool would be some sort of protection from invisible dangers. And soon, with time, they disappeared from view, one by one. No alarms, no struggle, just gone. We combed the ship. There was nowhere to hide. The security footage? Static. Then Novak's face, always smiling. The uncontrollable craving started to set in not much later than that. The rations that we had been given began to run out far too quickly, much too quickly, to leave us perplexed. It just made no sense whatsoever. Mariq swore he heard the clear sound of chewing in the night's darkness. There were eerie, wet noises that seemed to emanate from the vents above us. We explained it away as a product of stress and lack of adequate rest, but that all changed the night Mariq vanished into thin air. And then, to our surprise and dismay, we found remains of his bones. Clara was the first of us to entirely lose her grip. When we woke from our sleep, we found her in the gallery, cross-legged on the floor, her hands and mouth brightly red-stained. Before her, what was left of Varga was open, a gutted shell, lifeless. A wide, disturbing smile spread across her face, her eyes glassy and unfocused. "I had to do it," she said. "He tasted warm, like the sun on a summer's day." We locked her in the supply room carefully and securely so that she would not be able to get out of it. But when we went to visit her once some time had lapsed, we were confronted with the horrific view of only a heap of chewed bones with a macabre streak of blood on the opposite wall. One by one, the others started changing. Pale skin, sunken eyes, lips curled into a strange, twitching smiles. They started hunting each other. Marie caught Novak and dragged him screaming down the hallway. Clara followed soon after. The worst part was the silence. No cries, no begging, just the sound of teeth against flesh, chewing. And through all of it, the steady sound of the tapping. 3 taps, then nothing. Novak was the last one to depart. He stood in the observatory, his forehead against the frigid surface of the glass, exhaling slowly into the chill of the room. His breath left behind a fog that clouded the pane so that I could no longer see. He turned to me now, and his eyes seemed black and empty, as if they contained no light, no feeling. "It's better out here," he said. "You'll see." He then went on to open the airlock. Now it's just me. I don't know how long it's been. My nails are gone. My stomach twists painfully in the emptiness. The others whisper to me from the walls, from the vents. Novak's face sometimes flickers on the dead screens, smiling. The lights have lowered significantly now, and they throw a soft, muted glow around me. My reflection stares back at me from the observation glass. My face looks gaunt, with sunken eyes surrounded by deep, dark bruises that speak of exhaustion, and my skin looks stretched taut over sharp, jutting bones. My mouth is twisted into a smile that I cannot seem to prevent, as though it has developed a life of its own, opposing my actual emotions. Again, throughout last night, I was continuously hearing it. 3 taps, then nothing. Could you be so kind as to allow me the chance to come in?